After 8 years of marriage, my husband's ex posted a picture of a property deed on her social media. Her caption, "Choosing a man is choosing your future." At first, I was stunned. Then, out of sheer instinct, I left a comment. "It's always better to rely on yourself." But she deleted it before I had a chance to retrieve it. Not 5 minutes later, my husband James called. I thought he'd ask about what happened. Instead, he dove straight into yelling. "Lindsay's struggling to pay off her mortgage. It's tough for a woman on her own. What's wrong with me helping her with a loan payment? Don't I have the right to spend my own money? Stop causing trouble for her." In the background, I could hear Lindsay sobbing, with people around her murmuring in sympathy. I was stunned, frozen for a second, and James had already hung up and blocked me by the time I snapped out of it. An hour later, Lindsay posted again. This time, a transfer agreement showed that she now owned 50% of the company's shares. This was James's way of compensating her. To me, it felt like a deliberate challenge. But this time I didn't care. When James finally came home that night, I had just thrown away the empty syringe from my pregnancy-preserving shot. It was our second pregnancy, and at only 2 months in, I was already displaying symptoms that indicated a potential miscarriage. That morning, I noticed some bleeding and rushed to the hospital. The doctor said if I wanted to keep the baby, I needed to take daily shots right on time. But I hadn't planned on telling James about the pregnancy. I had planned a nice dinner to celebrate his birthday one last time. He promised he'd come home, but as day turned to night, all I saw was Lindsay's gloating post. After that call, during which he accused me of causing trouble, I numbly got up and threw away the meal I had spent hours preparing. When James walked in and noticed the empty dining table, he frowned, clearly irritated. "Did you forget what day it is?" Of course I remembered. It was James' birthday. No matter how busy I was every year, I'd take the day off, make his favorite dishes, and bake a cake from scratch. I never missed it from my days as a junior employee to now as a senior manager. But this year was different. This year was the last, and James hadn't even bothered to come home on time. Without looking at him, I scrolled through Lindsay's old posts. It hit me then that since she started working as James's secretary, she had been flaunting gifts from him. In just a year, she had received more than I had in 8 years of marriage. A sarcastic smile crept across my face. Spent nearly $1 million on her, and she still couldn't treat you to dinner? James didn't see that coming, and his impatience flared. "What's wrong with you? Those were year-end bonuses. Secretaries work hard, so I gave her more. What's the big deal? Don't you understand management? Isn't that part of your job? Oh, and do you also give your regular employees shares and Riverview mansions? You're a pretty generous boss. Maybe I should quit my job and come work for you." His face darkened just as his phone chimed with a new message. Glancing at the screen, his expression softened, and a smile tugged at his lips. I didn't need to ask. It was Lindsay. When he looked back at me, the anger was gone. "I've explained everything. And I didn't even get upset about your comment on her post. If I had something going on with her, do you think I'd be here tonight? What am I, a masochist who enjoys your cold stares?" I ignored him and walked to the kitchen. Of course, he thought I felt guilty and was about to make dinner to smooth things over. "Forget it," he sighed. "Don't bother cooking this late. I'll grab something from the cake shop." Can you imagine celebrating my birthday like this? Dealing with your moods? What did I do to deserve this? As James spoke, I exited the kitchen, holding a trash bag. When he saw me heading for the door, he froze. Turning to me with a wary look, he snapped, "I'm just going to buy a cake. Why are you following me? What do you think I'm going to do in an hour? You're losing it. Why don't you just put a surveillance camera on me while you're at it?" I understood why James was angry. In the past, whenever he came home late from work or some social event, I'd ask him to share his location so I wouldn't worry. I decided to give James a ride if he drank too much. But he took it the wrong way every time, accusing me of being controlling. This time, though, I didn't bother calling him out on his lie about the cake. I knew he didn't even like sweets. Instead, I just lifted the trash bag in my hand and gave it a little shake. "Don't overthink it. I'm just taking out the trash." Maybe it was the string of misunderstandings finally catching up with him, but his tone softened as if offering a truce. "After you throw the garbage, let's grab something to eat. That barbecue spot is pretty good." Thinking this might be our last dinner together, I nodded. 20 minutes later, James dropped me off on the side of the road in front of a rundown barbecue stall. Before I could even look around, he floored it, leaving a cloud of dust in his wake. The dirt splashed right onto my face. I quickly covered my eyes and turned away, realizing the stall wasn't open tonight. Nearby, 2 other food stands cluttered with greasy tables caught my eye. Shirtless, middle-aged men with bloated bellies sat around, casting lecherous glances my way. I hadn't realized how quickly I'd rushed out. I was still in my nightgown. Then, I found myself huddled on the steps by the road, feeling vulnerable and alone. It was nearly midnight. This deserted alley wasn't exactly buzzing with available taxis. I felt a cold sweat starting to form. Just as I was about to reach for my phone to call the police, a drunk man staggered toward me, swaying with a beer bottle in hand. I noticed a wedding ring on his finger as he slurred, "Hey girl, how about a drink? Out here alone this late? $200, come with me." My face went cold as I stepped back. "Get lost. Stay the hell away from me."